Discover the amazing truth, a heartwarming journey of 100 days that changed everything forever. In the heart of a sleepy Midwestern town, where the cornfields whisper secrets under the gentle breeze and the water towers proudly proclaim their presence, there lived a woman named Sarah. Her life was anything but ordinary. In just a few short days, everything she knew would be thrown into a whirlwind, exposing hidden dreams that flickered like flames in the night. Each morning, Sarah pulled on her waitress apron at the local diner, where the patrons were more family than customers. Every cup of coffee poured was steeped in familiarity and comfort, but beneath her cheerful exterior, her heart was heavy with worries that danced around her like shadows. Ethan, her lively 6-year-old son, struggled in school, his determination masked by frustration. Just as bills started piling up like the dishes in the back, Sarah's dreams felt stifled, tucked away like recipes forgotten in a dusty old box. The weight of it all made it hard to breathe, and doubt crept in like a thief in the night, stealing the brightness from her eyes. Then one fateful day, while stacking plates at the diner, something caught her eye: a vibrant flyer pinned to the community board, offering free entrepreneurship classes. A spark ignited inside her. Could this be the strange twist she'd been hoping for? The idea of starting her own baking business started to bubble up like dough rising in a warm oven. In that moment, her late grandmother's cherished recipes flashed through her mind: apple pies, chocolate chip cookies, and those legendary muffins that could make anyone's troubles fade away. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Sarah diligently worked late into the night, mixing and measuring, the scent of cinnamon and sugar filled her small kitchen, weaving through the walls and out into the crisp night air. Soon her signature muffins became the talk of the town, each bite a sweet whisper of hope and nostalgia. Mr. Thompson, a retired businessman, noticed the growing crowd outside her tiny home, his twinkling eyes filled with knowing support. He wanted to help her navigate this path. Just as her confidence reached new heights, disaster struck. A well-funded bakery chain opened down the street, a towering symbol of her insecurities and fears. The heaviness of defeat began to creep in, squeezing her heart tighter with each day. In the face of relentless competition, despair threatened to drown her like a sudden storm. Could she withstand the downpour, or would she lose her connection with her son, swept away in a tide of uncertainty? But in that chaos, a glimmer of community began to shine through. As the days slipped by, Sarah rallied her friends, family, and neighbors, launching a community bake sale that soon grew from simple ambitions into a vibrant tapestry of support. With laughter and tears intertwined, they poured their hearts into one common goal: to remind each other that together, they could rise. Sarah felt hope blossoming anew as sweet treats became symbols of solidarity, delivering more than just baked goods but a sense of belonging. As the annual town festival approached, anticipation thickened the air. Each cupcake sold felt like a heartbeat shared, unity blossoming amongst every delicious bite. Sarah stood on the brink of revelation. The clock was ticking, and this was more than just her dreams at stake. Would the bake sale rise to meet the challenge, matching the towering ambition of her competitor, or would the weight of doubt threaten to extinguish the light before it could shine? The festival dawned bright and alive, with colors exploding against the clear blue skies. Sarah's heart raced as she set up her booth, her hands trembling from excitement and fear. She had spent every moment perfecting her recipes, pouring her soul into each batch of muffins and cupcakes. This was her moment. But at the same time, the obscured shadows of doubt loomed behind her, threatening to pull her down. "Mom!" Ethan tugged at her apron, his big brown eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Can I help?" She knelt down and smiled, cupping his face in her hands. "Absolutely, buddy. We're in this together." As they arranged treats on the table, laughter and chatter swirled around them like a song, reverberating with energy. The scent of grilled sausages and caramel apples hung in the air. Vendors shouted out their wares, their voices rising like a joyful chorus. Yet, Sarah couldn't shake the fluttering in her stomach, the sharp reminder that a formidable competitor, the new bakery chain, loomed not too far away. She glanced over her shoulder, spotting the sleek, shiny facade of the Sweet Spot, its fancy sign gleaming in the sunlight. Her heart sank. Every detail of that place, from the meticulously arranged pastries to the barista with perfectly coiffed hair, screamed money. Could she really compete? Ethan crouched down to tie his shoelaces, his face scrunching in concentration. "Mom, can we sell the secret muffins too?" A surge of warmth flooded through her. Those were the muffins with her grandmother's secret touch, the ones that felt like home. "You bet we can." She ruffled Ethan's hair, her spirits lifting. Together they developed a plan, an idea as sweet as the treats they were selling. As the crowd began to gather, Sarah greeted customers with bright smiles and an open heart. Word of mouth spread like wildfire. "These are made with love," a woman exclaimed, savoring a muffin while nodding in approval. As sales soared, Sarah felt the pulse of her community energizing her, fortifying her resolve. Each cupcake purchased felt like a small victory against the looming threat of the bakery chain. But just as hope surged, a chilling announcement crackled over the loudspeakers. The bakery had just launched a competition. A bake-off to crown the best treat in town. It featured a cash prize that could change everything for her. The challenge sent a shiver down her spine. She could hear the buzz of whispered conversations, the crowd fueling the excitement. "Are you going to enter?" someone asked. The question hung heavy in the air like smoke in a smoky bar. Would she? The thrumming heartbeat of the festival pulsed around her, each laugh and cheer echoing her doubts. The thought of competing against the bakery, the displays of grandeur, and everything she feared ignited a storm inside her. She could hear the whispers of her insecurities, the echo of self-doubt questioning her abilities, but somewhere deep in her heart, a spark flared in defiance. This was not just about winning, it was about proving to herself, to Ethan, and to everyone else that she belonged here, too. "I'm going to do it," she whispered fiercely to herself. "Mom! Did you hear? They announced the sign-up." Ethan's voice pierced through her thoughts. Fingers trembling, she grabbed a pen, determined to carve out her place. As she signed her name on the register, a shadow fell across her. The elegant manager from the Sweet Spot stood beside her, amusement playing on her lips. "Good luck," she said, her tone laced with mockery. "You'll need it." A lump formed in Sarah's throat, but she straightened her back. This was her moment to shine. What would it take to conquer her fears? To push back against the doubt that threatened to pull her under? The bake-off was just around the corner, and beneath that brewing storm, whispered secrets and surprising truths awaited. What revelations lay in store, and could Sarah truly stand tall against the competition? Sarah's heart beat like a drum as the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden glow over the festival. The jubilant sounds of laughter and chatter began to fade, replaced by the rapid ticking of time pressing on her. She held the pen suspended above the registration sheet, the ink ready to seal her fate. A singular thought gripped her: could she really do this? Before she could second-guess herself, she inked her name with a flourish. Just as she did, the crowd erupted into applause, though it wasn't tea for her. Ethan stood nearby, waving excitedly at the cluster of festival attendees gathered at the Sweet Spot's booth, where colorful displays of pastries seemed to hypnotize the crowd. Sarah's stomach twisted with a blend of envy and determination. "Look at those fancy cakes, Mom," Ethan said, his voice bursting with excitement. "Can we make cakes like that?" "Focus on what we have, sweetheart," she replied, forcing a smile. Her gaze lingered on the glitzy booth. The manager was talking to a group of enthusiastic customers, her laugh cool and practiced. Sarah shook her head, pushing those thoughts aside. "We're not done yet," she said, rallying herself. It was time to create magic. The festival pulsed with life around her, people milling about, but Sarah felt transfixed, her adrenaline pumping as she organized her booth. Ethan found an empty table nearby and began drawing on some craft paper, his little hands moving quickly. "Can I make a sign for us?" he asked, eyes bright. "Of course. The best sign ever," Sarah encouraged, her heart swelling at his eagerness. As he scribbled away, she busied herself behind the counter. The moment felt electric. Just when she thought they were gaining momentum, a flood of people moved toward the sweet spot, their excitement overshadowing her small stall. A tall man with an oversized hat walked past, casting a sideways glance at Sarah's booth. He raised an eyebrow, suppressing a chuckle. Her breath hitched. Doubt pinched at her. "Everything okay, Mom?" Ethan's voice broke through her panic. "I'm fine, buddy. Just thinking," she replied softly. With every moment ticking by, her resolve hardened. She would not let fear dictate her choices. Her grandmother's secret muffins raced to the forefront of her mind, the tender taste of memories filling her. Suddenly, she felt a renewed burst of energy. Sarah began to arrange her muffins like tiny artworks, each one a splash of love and care that even the biggest bakery couldn't replicate. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows on the ground, news spread like wildfire through the crowd. Rumors wafted through the air, floating on whispers that buzzed with excitement. The bake-off judges would be announced. Judges? Who? A woman questioned, craning her neck for a better view. The crowd buzzed with anticipation, voices thick with speculation about the surprise duo. And then it hit her, the names floated through the crowd like ice-cold water drenching her heart. The local celebrity chef who had won national accolades and a renowned pastry critic known for his harsh opinions. Sarah's stomach knotted tighter. Would they really notice her simple treats? Ethan tugged on her apron. "Mom, are you okay? You're pale." "I'm okay, honey. Just a little nervous." She wanted to sound calm, to be the rock her son believed her to be. As evening drew on, the judging panel was announced over the loudspeakers. She held her breath, her heart pounding louder than the music. The feeling of desperation clawed at her throat. It was no longer just about her, it was about Ethan, about legacy, about her grandmother. Then came the moment of truth. A microphone crackled to life. "And now, ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome our esteemed judges." A hush fell over the crowd. Sarah's grip on the counter tightened. When they appeared, she felt the weight of their gazes, like shackles binding her in place, as they began to assess the booths. Would they see the heart behind her creations? "Mom," Ethan whispered, "what if they don't like it?" Her eyes darted to his earnest face, full of concern. "Then we'll show them how much love is in every bite." As the judges stopped in front of her booth, scanning the colorful treats, a feeling of dread surfaced. The crowd leaned in closer, whispering among themselves. "Do you think she'll hold up against the sweet spot?" Someone murmured. Sarah's heart raced anew, a mix of hope and fear. This was her moment, but would it be enough? Just then, one of the judges leaned in closer, a curious glint in his eye. "What is your secret ingredient?" he asked, his voice low but piercing, echoing as though it announced more than just a culinary inquiry. And just like that, everything hung in the balance. Would she share her family's secret? What if it changed everything forever? Sarah's pulse quickened, each beat feeling louder than the last. The crowd around her pulsed with anticipation, like the heavy bass thump of a party that's about to explode. She was caught in that moment, the air thick, heads turning, whispers buzzing like hornets. This is it, she thought, her mind racing. What if I tell him? What if I don't? The judge's eyes were penetrating, a deep hazel that seemed to search for the truth buried within her sweet treats. She could almost feel the weight of her grandmother's legacy pulling her back, holding her tight like a comforting embrace. But sharing that secret could launch her career or shatter her dreams. She stammered, her voice catching in her throat. All her hard work, all her late nights in the kitchen, the stories behind each muffin, they seemed to swell inside of her, begging for their time to shine. "Mom? What's wrong?" Ethan's voice pulled her back to reality. He looked wide-eyed, clutching his homemade sign that read Sarah's Sweet Muffins in bright, crooked letters. Suddenly, she felt it, the bond they shared, the unconditional love that affixed them like a lifeline in turbulent waters. The secret was more than just an ingredient, it was a story of her family, one steeped in resilience and strength. If she chose to reveal it, she would be launching them into an unknown future together. "Time to make a choice," she whispered under her breath. "I'll never let you down, buddy." "Not again," Sarah said, her determination hardening like freshly baked bread. She leaned in closer, the heat of the moment igniting a fire in her chest. "It's a secret ingredient, yes. But it's more than just that. It's my grandmother's love, her stories, and hope wrapped in each muffin." The judge raised an eyebrow, interested now. "Stories, huh?" "Yes," she said, buoyed by newfound courage. "Every muffin has a piece of her heart. And that's what makes them special." She glanced at the audience, some were leaning in closer, caught up in her intensity. A flicker of interest sparked among them, softly pushing the tension out of the air, then came a sudden loud cheer from the sweet spot booth, shattering the fragile moment. It cut through her like a knife, the sound so jarring that Sarah instinctively recoiled. She turned in their direction, a wave of anxiety crashing over her again. "Look at those fancy cakes!" someone exclaimed, their voice oozing with envy and admiration. Just as quickly as he had turned her moment into a fragile whisper, the crowd diverted its attention back to the ostentatious display, their murmurs rising again. The judge, still focused on her, quirked a grin. "I like the story. But will it stand up to flavors?" Her heart sank further. Did she have a chance? The sweet aroma of cinnamon and vanilla wafting off her muffins hung temptingly in the air, but would it be enough to drown out the glitz of the sweet spot? The second judge was now inspecting the adjacent booth with a critical eye, making comments that echoed lightly through the crowd, tainted with praise. "Gotta believe in what you have," Sarah thought, rallying herself once more. Ethan pulled at her apron again. "Mom, please don't be sad. Your muffins are the best." His innocent faith hit her straight in the heart. "If he believes, then I can too," she mused. Her palms clenched around the counter as she turned back to the judge. "Want a taste? I promise they'll surprise you." She grinned, a flicker of defiance igniting within her. It was a gamble, but maybe worth taking. Just then, another customer approached, their face flushed with excitement. "I heard you have muffins made with love," they proclaimed, causing the judge to turn and eye Sarah anew. "Love, huh?" He smiled broadly. "All right, let's give it a taste." As the judge reached for a muffin, time slowed, and the atmosphere shifted. The crowd fell silent as he lifted it to his lips. What are they thinking? She wondered, her breath hitching as he took a bite. What would he say? Her heart pounded heavier with each second that passed. Would it shatter her dreams or build her future? He chewed thoughtfully, the silence pressing like a weight upon her chest. And then his eyes widened. "This is incredible!" he exclaimed, breaking the tension like glass. Cheers and gasps erupted from the crowd. It was as if the world outside her booth faded away, leaving only the joy cascading through those gathered. But before she could envelop herself in the growing excitement, the other judge turned suddenly, a glint of skepticism in his eye. "However," he began, his tone casting a chill, "there's more to a competition than just flavor. It's about originality, uniqueness. What else do you have to prove?" Each word bore down on her like a storm cloud. Could her grandmother's secret withstand the pressure? As a shiver of uncertainty wove through her heart, Sarah realized the stakes were escalating, and the festival's celebratory atmosphere was about to warp into something else entirely. "Can I keep this victory?" She pondered. Can I prove that love is the strongest ingredient? Just then, a loud crash echoed through the festival, silencing the crowd instantly. What was that? Ethan asked, gripping her hand tighter. The judges exchanged worried glances, their attention now drawn away from her booth. Sarah's heart sank and soared all at once as a new mystery unfolded. Maybe this event is more than just a competition, she thought, her mind racing, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something unexpected was about to change everything altogether. Would she be ready when the storm hit? The sudden crash reverberated in Sarah's chest, a jarring reminder that the world outside her muffins was as unpredictable as a summer storm. She turned toward the source, heart racing, as the crowd shifted and murmured nervously. Ethan squeezed her hand tighter, eyes wide, reflective of the assortment of emotions swirling through the gathering. "Mom, what happened?" he asked, a tremor of fear edging into his voice. "I don't know, buddy," but Sarah's words trailed off, her focus sharpened on a figure bursting through the crowd, flailing arms and a flustered expression. It was a young baker from the sweet spot, a woman with wild, dark curls and a face painted with chaos. "There's a problem." The woman gasped, breathless and wide-eyed. "It's the new oven." It had exploded. Gasps echoed through the crowd. The judge's brows furrowed as they exchanged urgent glances. "What do you mean exploded?" One judge demanded, stepping forward with an air of authority, the excitement from earlier evaporating into the air. The woman barely managed to catch her breath before blurted out, "Smoke fire, they called the fire department. We need to evacuate." Fear rippled through the crowd. Families turned to their children and grabbed belongings. Within moments, the festival went from jubilant celebration to chaotic urgency, the atmosphere shifting into a frenzy akin to a dark thundercloud settling over a sunny day. "Ethan, look at me," Sarah said, kneeling to meet his gaze. "We need to stay calm, okay? We have to make sure everyone is safe." Nodding rapidly, Ethan seemed to grasp the gravity of the situation, though his grip on her hand was still tight, a source of strength and anxiety in equal measure. "Gather your muffins, Sarah," shouted a voice that cut through the chaos. It was the first judge, now rushing back to her booth. "We might need to move the competition elsewhere." Sarah blinked, all thoughts of her secret ingredient and dreams of stardom melting away under the weight of alarming urgency. She swooped in, grabbing the remaining muffins. Each one felt like a piece of her heart, fragile yet significant. "Mom!" Ethan tugged at her. "What do we do?" As she glanced around, she could see panic settling on faces. People were now hurrying toward the nearest exit as the acrid smell of smoke snaked through the air. It tugged at her throat, the sharp scent mingling with the sweetness of her creations. "Let us just get as many people out as we can." She felt a sense of purpose buoy her spirit. In that moment, she wanted to be more than just a competitor. She wanted to be part of something bigger. Together, she and Ethan weaved through the crowd, offering comforts and encouragement, turning fear into action. But as they reached the exit, another sound emerged from the rear of the festival, a loud crack followed by a scream. The crowd shifted again, and it was clear that something terrible was happening. "What was that?" Ethan whimpered, looking back, eyes wide with panic. Sarah's heart sank. She didn't want him to see the fear flooding her, but she could feel it settling into her bones. I don't know, but we need to keep moving." Suddenly, a flickering light caught her peripheral vision. An explosion of flames burst forth from where the sweet spot had been, painting the evening sky with fiery orange and red. The crowd gasped collectively, but that wasn't the only thing people stared at. A figure emerged, stumbling from the wreckage, the young baker with wild curls, her apron singed. She looked wildly around, eyes frantic. "Help! Someone help!" Sarah hesitated, adrenaline surging through her. Was she really going to risk her and Ethan's safety for this stranger? Yet, the pull of empathy and the innate response to protect surged stronger than fear. She took a breath, her heart pounding. "Stay here," she yelled to Ethan. "I'll be right back." With that, she plunged back into the chaos, drawn toward the flames. Could she brave the heat, the confusion? Did she dare to disregard her own safety for another's? "Hold tight," Sarah shouted, weaving through the shadowy crowd. As she approached the frantic baker, something caught in the back of her mind, a flash of inspiration, a kernel of hope. What if this wasn't just a disaster? What if, hidden in this chaos, she could unearth a new truth about herself and her beloved muffins? But between the inferno and the pounding bass of her heart, would she discover who she truly was when it mattered most? The weight of uncertainty lingered heavy as she reached for the woman in need. In that moment, she had a single thought: could love in its truest form rise from the ashes? And with a surrounding darkness closing in, the answers lay just beyond her reach. Heat enveloped Sarah, a solid wall of fire that stole her breath with every step she took toward the young baker. The crackle of flames echoed in her ears, drowning out the panicked cries of the crowd behind her. She could see the woman's face, a mask of desperation, and something deep inside her ignited a fierce determination burning brighter than the blaze around them. "Stay calm," Sarah called out, forcing her feet to move faster. Every inch felt like a marathon, the smoke creeping closer, thick and choking. A sharp jab of fear twisted in her gut as she caught sight of the oven's wreckage, twisted metal and flames dancing wildly beneath the darkening sky. People were shouting, running past her, but she focused on the woman, who had collapsed by the shattered booth. Her clothes were tattered, and singe marks marred her skin. This could have been Sarah. She had watched the flames glow flicker in her own kitchen, felt the heat rise quicker than she ever thought possible. "Can you walk?" Sarah yelled, reaching the baker who was gasping for breath. I think so," the young woman stammered, her voice barely audible above the din. "But my ankle, I can't." Without thinking, Sarah dropped down beside her, eyes darting through the chaos. People continued to stream out, but the flames were spreading like wildfire, closing in on her. The weight of the decision throbbed in her chest: save the woman or run? Through the haze, she spotted Ethan, his small frame trembling near the exit. The sheer terror etched onto his face made her heart flip. What would he do if she didn't come back? What about his safety? No. She shook her head, centering herself. "I can't leave her." Sarah hadn't come this far to turn her back now. Grabbing the baker's arm, she hoisted her up, her slender frame surprisingly heavy with fear. "Lean on me," she ordered, her heart pounding with urgency as they stumbled toward the exit. "You don't understand, it's too dangerous," the baker cried, glancing back at the fire growing bolder behind them. "We're going to be fine." The words shot from Sarah's mouth like a bullet, desperation coating them with urgency. They teetered, together, navigating the sea of frantic bodies, the air thick with sweat and panic. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath their feet, a shocking roar resonating as more debris crashed down behind them. "Hurry!" Just as they reached the edge of the crowd, a piece of flaming wood flew through the air, landing dangerously close to them. The crowd screamed, parting like a wave as people scrambled to escape the chaos. Time felt suspended, each heartbeat loud and deafening, threading fear into Sarah's core. "Run!" she shouted, dragging the woman with her, each movement charged with the adrenaline of their bleak reality. Ethan dashed forward, eyes wide. Relief swept through her just long enough for a sudden realization to hit: she couldn't just save the woman, she had to ensure Ethan got out safely too. "Mom!" Another explosion rumbled from behind as they neared the safety of the parking lot. The bright orange flames devoured another booth. Terror gripped her, the impending flight of the flames loomed larger than life. "Ethan, stay close," she called urgently, her grip on his hand firm and steadfast. Yet, inside her, uncertainties spiraled. Amidst the chaos, was she making the right choices? As they burst through the exits, the night air hit her like icy water, dispelling the heat of the fire behind them. Shelter loomed nearby, a cluster of trees offering a momentary reprieve from the chaos. But then came a cry from behind her, one that sent shivers down her spine. "Help, someone is still inside." Just when she thought the terror would wane, the nightmare roared once more. No one was safe yet, not until every last person was accounted for. Fear and courage battled within Sarah, each moment nothing less than an explosive masterwork of both dread and determination. Could she push through the ashes and emerge with not only hope but also answers she never knew she needed? As uncertainty gripped her once more, the flames flickered brightly behind them, and she was torn between saving herself or risking it all for someone still trapped. Sarah's heart raced as she heard the desperate cry over the chaos. A voice, rising above the roar of flames and screams, shattered the fleeting moment of safety she had just found. "Someone is still inside." It was a sound that echoed in her mind, pressing down like an anvil on her chest. The young baker leaned heavily against her, eyes wild, fear unmasked. "You can't go back in there," she gasped, desperation coloring her voice. "But I have to," Sarah replied, noting the urgent life throbbing within her. She glanced at Ethan, his wide eyes searched hers, a quiet plea hanging between them. The weight of responsibility crushed down on her, a duality of maternal instinct and primal fear clawing at her insides. "Mom, please," Ethan whimpered, backing away a step, his small hand slipping slightly from her grip. It wasn't just the flickering shadows of the flames that sent chills down her spine. It was the very real possibility of losing him. His safety depended on her, yet, the additional cry echoed again, chilling her to the bone. How could she leave them behind? How could she leave anyone behind? She felt the stakes shifting. The world outside was fading, the safety they had fought to reach now felt just as threatening. She was back at the starting line, stood on a shaky precipice. "I can't save them both without you," she whispered to herself, ignoring the wild voices clamoring in her head. Finally, she released her hold on the baker, taking a breath filled with resolve. "You're going to be okay. Just wait here, all right? I'll be right back." She didn't believe it herself, but it sounded like the right thing to say. Before either could respond, she darted back toward the inferno, the heat clawing at her. The crowd was now a distant roar, time seemed suspended as she maneuvered through clouds of acrid smoke. Each inhalation burned her lungs, but she kept going. Ahead, the flickering shadows danced crazily against the towering flames. The shrieks of fear were now mingled with the sound of crackling wood. It was a groaning monster teasing her closer. "Hold on," she shouted, but felt like her voice barely broke through the chaotic symphony of fire. Each step deeper into the fiery hell felt like a surge of madness, but she had to push through. Moments stretched into hours as she edged toward the gutted booth, feeling the scorching heat closer than ever. The wreckage was a twisted wreck. She glanced around wildly for signs of life. Then she heard a faint whimper. "Hello?" Sarah yelled, her voice shaking. "Where are you?" I'm stuck," came the muffled reply, laced with panic. Her heart plummeted. "Stuck? Can you crawl?" I don't know." The girl's voice cracked, each syllable like a dagger of despair. Fear threatened to engulf Sarah. She scanned the surrounding flames, seeking a way through. As ash slapped her face, she gritted her teeth, forcing herself to focus. Now wasn't the time for weakness. Without regard for her own safety, she maneuvered around the blazing wreckage, mind racing. What if she became trapped too? What if she slammed into the very thing that could turn her into a victim? Each heartbeat rang like a warning bell in her ears, a reminder of her vulnerability and the stakes. "Just a bit further," she shouted, dread coiling in her stomach. The flames roared hungrily, challenging her every step. But then, just as another massive crash shook the earth, Sarah saw her, a young girl, cowering beneath a collapsed beam. Terror struck Sarah like a bolt of lightning. "Stay still." I'm coming. If she didn't act fast, the flames would devour them both. With resolve surging through her veins, she lunged forward, desperate to rescue the girl. But all at once, everything exploded. Battered by the shockwave, Sarah was catapulted backward into darkness, air rushed from her lungs. Was this the end? Groans of pain filled her ears, and as the world slipped out from under her, the flames danced dangerously close. Would she still have enough strength to pull everyone out? She crashed against the ground, confusion clouding her mind as pain shot through her body. And just as she fought to find her footing, she caught sight of a shadow moving deeper into the fire's embrace. What was the girl's fate? And would Sarah find the strength to fight back yet again? Time slipped away like the embers in the night. In that critical moment, her true test was just beginning. She gasped, the air stinging her lungs and her heart pounding with urgency. The flames roared behind her, a terrifying reminder of the chaos. Blinking rapidly to clear her mind, Sarah pushed herself up, wincing as pain shot through her arms. She was alive, but time was slipping away fast. "Hey! Are you okay?" she yelled, her voice cracking but desperate. There was no response, only the sound of crackling wood and the horrid whisper of fire licking at the edges of the wreckage. Sarah's heart dropped. She couldn't let despair take root. Not now. Pushing through the haze, she stumbled back toward the booth, hollowed out like a skeleton under the weight of the fire. The air was thick and oppressive, each breath a struggle. "Simon! We need to get out!" she shouted, scanning the chaos for any sign of the girl. Suddenly, her eyes locked onto the shadow that had caught her earlier. A small hand peeked out from beneath the beam, trembling, desperately trying to reach freedom. "I'm coming!" Sarah cried, rushing forward despite the screams of her body protesting. Time blurred, fear clawed at her throat. She could almost see the girl's face, pale and terrified, eyes wide with a cry on her lips. Breathing heavily, she crawled closer, yelling, "Just hold on. I'll get you out." Sarah reached out her hands, grasping the edge of the beam. It felt impossibly heavy, but she wouldn't back down now. She braced herself and heaved, the beam shifting slightly. "Are you okay? Can you move?" she yelled again. "I can't. It's too heavy." Panic tightened like a noose around Sarah's chest, but she focused, remembering her own resolve, the faces of those she loved. "You're going to be okay. Just keep trying. Please," the girl whimpered. With renewed determination, Sarah pulled again, adrenaline coursing through her veins, igniting her spirit. The beam shifted more this time, a glimmer of hope igniting in the dim glow of the flames. "Now! Push!" Sarah directed, their combined effort finally managing to lift the weight just enough. The girl slipped free, gasping in relief, but there was no time to celebrate. Sarah turned, ready to lead her to safety, when she caught a glimpse of the massive wall of fire now separating them from escape. The flames danced, mocking them, the heat intensifying with each passing moment. "Follow me!" Sarah shouted, guiding the trembling girl with urgency. They darted away from the wreckage, the inferno crackling within inches of their backs. The fear felt tangible, creeping into every corner of her mind. Just as they rounded a corner, the ground shook again, a loud crack with a spine-chilling roar as the booth succumbed to the flames. The sound echoed like thunder in Sarah's ears, and for a fleeting moment, doubt crept in. Had she made the right call? "Over here." The girl pointed to a narrow alleyway just ahead, sultry air thick with smoke swirling. "Go!" Sarah urged, giving one last look at the carnage before them. Fire flew, sparks leaping into the night like demonic fairies. But just as they reached the alley, Sarah's foot slipped on some debris. She grabbed the girl's hand tightly, but her body jerked as jarring pain shot through her ankle. "Keep going. I'll be right behind you." Sarah managed, her voice strained, even as her mind screamed against the burning rebellion in her spine. "No! I can't leave you!" the girl cried, her eyes shining with fear. "Just trust me," Sarah shouted, willing her body to move. The flames were relentless now, leaping higher, gnawing at her resolve as she struggled to pull herself upright. As the child hesitated, looking back with disbelief, a shadow flickered across the flames, a menacing figure moving through the fire's embrace. "Run!" Sarah cried one last time, dread coiling in her stomach as the world around them spiraled into an inferno. Would this shadow become another threat, or was it friend or foe? The girl bolted down the alley, but Sarah remained rooted, paralyzed momentarily by the sight. She couldn't break focus now, not when they were so close to safety. The figure stepped forward, and in the blinding light of the fire, all hope dimmed. What awaited her? Who was that lurking in the flames? Sarah's instinct screamed for escape, and still, she hesitated, heart pounding like a war drum, caught between survival and the storm that was about to break. The figure emerged, shrouded in smoke and flickering firelight. Just as Sarah feared the worst, the heat of recognition washed over her. It was the man from the park, the one who had seemed out of place among the laughter and joy. His form was blurred by the chaos, but she remembered his eyes, dark, piercing, filled with something she couldn't quite grasp. "Sarah!" he yelled, the roar of the fire almost swallowing his voice. "Over here!" A jolt of clarity struck her. She couldn't abandon her chance of survival. Igniting the last of her strength, she threw herself toward him. The flames roared just a breath away, singing the air around her. Each step felt like wading through molten lava, but the man stood firm, extending his arm with urgency. "Come on. I can help you," he shouted, a note of desperation creeping into his tone. As she neared, she caught sight of the girl, her small figure framed against the fiery backdrop, waiting in a haze of confusion at the alley's entrance. "Sarah!" she called, her voice trembling, laced with both fear and ache. "Go!" Sarah screamed back, but the man intercepted, grabbing her and hoisting her around a sudden burst of flame. The heat hit them like a wall, fury and power ripping through the place they had called a moment of safety just moments before. The man pulled her into him, and Sarah's own strength began to falter. Panic gripped her again. What if he wasn't here to save her? What if he was part of the very chaos they were running from? Doubt clawed at her mind, the flicker of darkness attempting to consume her resolve. The flames twisted behind them, creating a backdrop of flickering oranges and hellish reds. She risked a glance back and saw the girl standing there, frozen, mere feet away from certain danger, eyes wide with equal measures of hope and terror. "Help her!" Sarah cried, her pulse racing, her breath ragged. "She's trapped." He paused, uncertainty flashing in his eyes before he turned to assess the scene. "This way, quick!" He gestured frantically toward a side exit, forged from jagged metal and creeping vines. But there was no pathway leading to safety. Between them lay the wavering heat, impossible to cross, and moments would pass in an instant. "Don't you dare leave her!" she shouted, unrelenting, each syllable fueled by fear for the child. He hesitated, and that small moment felt like an eternity. She risked glancing at the girl again. Terror flooded her expression, yet the flicker of defiance burned bright. "Sarah!" the girl cried again, but the fire shifted closer, leaping hungrily. The man finally relented, his jaw tightening with determination. "All right. We'll get her. Stick close." Pressing his body against the flames, he surged forward, every movement draped in urgency. With a rush of adrenaline, Sarah limped right behind him, her ankle screaming in protest, focusing solely on the small figure who was their beacon of hope. "Hold on!" Sarah yelled. "Just hold on!" Together, they leaped into the hellfire's embrace, praying it wouldn't consume them whole. As they crossed into the swirling chaos, the grotesque silhouette of the flames morphed, creating an image of torment, and in that moment of dread, clarity struck. If they made it through, who would she meet on the other side? What truth would emerge from the shadows mingling with embers? With one final push, they reached the girl, the flames licking dangerously close. Sarah grabbed the girl's hand as the man's eyes locked onto hers, a silent communication sparking with unasked questions. Then came the sound of cracking bone and the ground below them gave way, truly testing the limits of despair. Go! Sarah howled, muscles straining to pull the children from choking terror, but as the world turned chaotic, the shadows shifted again, blurring their escape into darkness. What secrets were waiting beyond the blaze? And who would rise from the ashes of deception? As they stumbled through the smoke and ash, Sarah's heart thundered in her chest, a wild drumbeat fueled by anxiety and hope. Behind them, flames continued to rage, a hungry fury that threatened everything in its path. She could barely see through the thick haze, but she felt the tight grip of the girl's hand in hers, tethering her to determination. Keep moving. Sarah urged as they emerged into a clearing, a place where the flames could not reach. The cool night air wrapped around them like a comforting blanket. For a moment it felt like they could breathe again, but not for long. The man stumbled into the clearing beside them, panting heavily, sweat glistening on his brow. Is everyone all right? His gaze shifted between Sarah and the girl, seeking reassurance in her shaky smile. Yeah, we're okay. Sarah breathed, trying to shake off the fear that clung to her like the smoke replaced with the scent of charred wood. But that wasn't entirely true. The reality of what they had just escaped rushed back, and tears stung her eyes. An emergency siren wailed in the distance, growing louder with each passing moment. The fire department. The man exclaimed, relief flooding his tone. But before Sarah could respond, she locked eyes with the girl, who was trying to hide her trembling hands. What's your name? Lila, the girl whispered, her voice barely reaching above the noise. Lila, Sarah repeated softly, hoping to anchor them both in this moment of emergency. You're so brave for holding on, and you did amazing back there. Just then, Lila's eyes widened. What about the bakery? What will happen to the sweet spot? The thought sent a shiver down Sarah's spine, and she felt another rush of warmth, this one stemming from the lingering ties of community. We can't control what happened, but we can help. We're not alone in this, okay? As first responders began arriving, flashing lights danced over the asphalt. The crowd that had once filled the festival was now somber, gathering at a safe distance, eyes filled with concern. Through the chaos, a familiar face emerged. Mr. Thompson, her lifelong supporter, rushed towards her. His expression flickered between pride and worry. Sarah, you did it. I saw everything. You were incredible. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I was just, but he interrupted, gripping her shoulder firmly, his eyes glistening with admiration. You saved lives today. You faced fire for a stranger, and that says everything about your character. Everything has changed, she said, the weight of her worries still clinging to her. What will happen to my bakery now? Listen, that bakery chain might have opened a flashy storefront, but you've got something they don't. He reassured her. This community knows what you've done, they see your love in every muffin. You're not alone in this fight. We'll ensure your business thrives. Together. A surge of warmth flooded through Sarah. The sense of belonging she craved was blossoming around her like the sweet aroma of her baking, filling the cracks of despair. I want to help too. Lila piped up, standing tall beside her. You could make a new bakery together. Sarah smiled, a wave of hope washing over her. That's exactly what we will do, Lila. Together. And just like that, the embers of idea began to spark once more. Sarah's head turned toward the flames still raging in the distance, but instead of fear, she felt determination rising within her, flickering like the flames that threatened her very existence. In that moment, she realized her dreams were not extinguished, they were being reshaped and refueled by the love of her community and the courage she had shown to rise amidst the chaos. As the fire department worked tirelessly to contain the flames, Sarah took a deep breath, whispering a word of gratitude to her grandmother, hoping she could feel the pride swelling in her heart. "Let us create something beautiful out of the ashes," she whispered. The journey wasn't over, but Sarah felt ready. With Ethan by her side, Lila's fierce spirit sparking new life, and Mr. Thompson's unwavering support, they forged ahead, united by the sweetness of kinship and the promise of a new beginning. This was just a farewell to the chaos, it was an invitation to embark on a new adventure. And oh, what a beautiful journey it would be. As darkness wrapped the town, a firefly's glow flickered amongst the stars overhead, illuminating a path forward while the entire community stood eager to rally behind them. Now, this is where you step in. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that unfold. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support truly makes a difference. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what comes next. And share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Your involvement is so vital to keeping this community alive. Let's rise together.